we're
Well,
like
the rest of this week we didn't do last week.
we're like the cereal, the cereal that kept continuing from week to week.
Never ending list of things we can talk about. Yeah, it's the way it is,
Yeah, how fun is that?
Yeah.
Hi, this is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 Internet Singles Talk Network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm in Poulsbo, Washington State with my lovely family for our yearly reunion.
Nice.
It's so much fun. Yeah, I got here yesterday and it's just been so fun to spend time with them.
Nice.
I love it, love it, love it a lot. I'm really lucky.
Yes.
So last week we talked about dating terms that are really the new words that you and I said, gosh, we'd heard of some of them, but not all of them. And
Yep.
there were 10 and we covered 5. And so I'm sure there'll be a link in here so that you can go back and listen to the ones from before, because wow, we just barely fit in 5 last week. So I thought we don't even have to review last week. We'll just move on to this week, because we'll put it in our newsletter that goes out, and then Cece will put it in the recording that you can easily and effortlessly go back and listen to them.
And if you're listening to the podcast, it's the previous episode. So it's much easier.
Yeah, the one right before, the one we did last week.
Yeah.
So this week, it's interesting. I thought, yeah, that makes sense. And I did love the term, the way they put it. So I'm actually going to read it because it's short and it cracked me up. So this one's benching, because athletes get benched, which means you get removed from the game. And what does it mean in dating? It means keeping potential romantic partners on hold in case other ones don't work out. Which I thought, well, I think I've done it, but I think I would really hate having it done to me and know that it's being done to me. And what they do is they just reach out a little bit now and then to keep you on the hook, but they only invest time in the relationship when there's nobody else. And I love that it said, if I was a referee, I'd say definitely there was a flag on the play.
It's a cute definition.
It was really good because I love sports analogies anyway, and I thought that was really appropriate.
The thing for me about it, which I think is also interesting, is that it does have the sense of that, because benching is not getting rid of somebody. It's putting him, it's like keeping him in the sweat, in the tracksuit, like warmed up, ready to go. And on dating, some people do play that numbers game where they'll like have somebody on the front, like who's on deck. My baseball terms could be off, so bear with me. I'm English. But so somebody who's on the field playing. But if you don't really know if this is the one, to have somebody in backup, which is what benching really is, maybe a smart strategy. I just think it doesn't have the same level of quality of heart to it, because it does feel like you're playing the numbers versus really saying what I really want. Because if you think you have what I really want, it could be this one, it could be that one. I mean, if you're buying a car, maybe you want to have more than one choice available. But in a relationship, once you put your focus on the one person, I don't mean put all your eggs in one basket, let's be clear. But I'm saying have focus on the one person without thinking second guess, third guess, fourth guess sort of thing. Like, just focus on the one that's there. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, then it's like reset and then start again with a new person. That feels cleaner to me.
I really agree. And certainly you and I've talked about how important it is to date more than one person in the beginning, so that you're still comparing and contrasting and refining. Oh, I hadn't thought about adding that to my list because, wow, that's really good. Or I haven't thought about adding to that list because it's not something I want. And that, you do that for a little while, 5 or 6 dates or 2 or 3 months, and then make a decision. Let the one that isn't right, now that you've really looked back at your list and seen how do you feel about them and you've had a front runner, let them go. Because having somebody just waiting in the wings, I think is mean. I think it's really mean.
Well, it's also like having one foot in, one foot out. And that, to me, is not the basis for a good relationship anyway, which is the things. And as I said, and we talked about this last week too, about the difference between dating and relationship, is for me, and we said the same thing, is that basically once you cross that line into intimacy, physical intimacy, that to me is when you become clear about single focus, because otherwise it's no longer, then it becomes monogamy versus polyamory in a way, because if you're having sex with more than one person, that's not really committed to one relationship. No. So we made, anyway, watch the previous episode for that piece.
So if you are caring a lot about this person and you're only hearing from them occasionally, or they only ask you out occasionally, then it's important to have a conversation about, are we really dating to get to know each other? Are you just looking for a friend? I mean, that could be, not usually if they're benching you, but this is how you clarify. Are you just looking for somebody to occasionally go to the movies with? Because both men and women can do this. Are you looking for somebody to just casually do things with? Great. Then you know you're free to date other people. What this is somebody that either you've made up in your mind or they've said something that's made you feel that this is moving forward, that you're progressing into moving from dating to relationship, and that they're doing just enough to keep you hanging in there, sitting on their bench, on their team, waiting for more. If it's not, you need to be brave and ask.
Well, the other part of that, in addition to that, is are you willing to risk enough to be with one person? Because the other part also is some of the people like having those backups because they don't feel confident enough to risk this one person. So there's a lot of self-reflection questions you can have in this conversation about what is your position in a relationship, and are you really looking for one person, or are you just simply just trying out the field, so to speak?
And at least as long as you're honest, first be honest with yourself, and then first that's a brave act, and then the next brave act is that you're actually honest with the other person. This is where I am right now. This is how I'm feeling and not feeling, and the other person might go, I'm feeling the same way. I'm still feeling my way around this. I'm kind of new to dating. Maybe we could just keep practicing with each other. I mean, what a nice adult conversation that would be.
Indeed.
Yeah. We could teach people how to have that conversation, huh, Barry?
No, I think we could.
I've heard rumors about these coaches.
Yeah, I've heard them. I've heard about that too. There's some pretty cool people out there doing that.
I think so. I think we're pretty cool.
I agree. So the next one, next one is, and it's funny because some of these terms, they really speak for themselves. Benching has that quality to it. So the next one, which is called orbiting. And orbiting, I mean, just think what orbiting is. It's like, it's like you circle the planet, you circle the moon, you circle Mars, whatever it is, you're orbiting, you're going around. But the thing is, with orbiting, you're not actually landing. So in relationship and in dating, this conversation makes a lot of sense because what orbiting really is about, I'm just going to read what it says on the sheet about that. It's they call it the new ghosting. Like ghosting is that old already.
I know. Didn't it just start?
Yeah, ghosting is too old now. We're calling it orbiting. But it's actually the sense about like when you're dating is that you cut off all contact with the person you're dating. You've had enough, you're over, it's complete. But you don't actually disconnect all your social media connections and all your other stuff. You're still basically you're like a dog following the scent. You're just checking everything out all the time. And the thing with orbiting is it really is a distraction from being free. Because it can be, I mean, if you're going with somebody you've been friends with on social media and then you break up after a relationship, you stay friends, stay connected, but you're not always dogging them and checking them out and make sure they're okay or make sure what's going on or see if they're dating somebody else and all that other stuff that we run in our tapes in our head. And so for me, the idea about orbiting is it has a limited aspect because what it's doing is it's preoccupying your energy rather than being free to date somebody else. Or it's kind of like the things that if you have unfulfilled or incomplete communication with that person, you're not being bold enough to go up to them and say, look, I need to talk to you about something. Something's come up for me, or I'm aware of this. It's like that thing when you hang out in the shadows, it's creepy, basically. That's what orbiting really is. It's kind of creepy.
And it's unfulfilling. I mean, it's sort of like being a part-time friend. It's not, are you a friend? Are you an acquaintance? Are you more? Are you less? I mean, I think we don't always realize we need to start with ourselves. What is it that I need from a variety of people in my life? And how do I fill that with this variety of people in my life? And am I asking for too much or too little from this person that I could be asking for more or less from this person? And we really fall down in the trenches about doing this with dating, that you don't get really clear about, the whole lonely, desperate thing makes everything overwhelming already. And then you aren't going to think clearly. So if you've worked through the lonely, desperate, which you and I do a lot with people, then you say, well, what is it I need? Do I really want somebody that I just want to do casual things for a while, or I just want to experiment with going on official dates? And instead of this wishy-washy circling little and oh no, and it's the half a step forward and 2 steps back. And if you're trying to do this with a healthy person, it's going to drive them crazy. And if 2 of you are doing this at once, I think it could drive you both crazy.
And then also the ripples. And because how many times you've been in situations, and I'm thinking of my own experience of this, where you're friends with somebody who's doing that, and you try not to talk about them being too crazy or dysfunctional, because the thing is, everybody around you is going to be fully aware of what's going on, because you're going to be leaking out energy everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you're also probably going to say things to them that sounds a little, how do I put this politely? Yeah, there's none of the words I'm coming up with are very healthy, but let me say it this way, is that when you're telling your friends about this relationship that you're out of, but you're not out of, and you're still in the orbiting stage, they're clearly seeing what you're doing. And they almost want to say, they almost want to grab you by the collar and shake you awake and say, stop doing that. Yeah. But when you're in it, you don't even notice that.
No. And I think a trait often that could really lend itself to doing this behavior is somebody who doesn't have very intact boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
They let people walk all over them. Then they in turn unintentionally walk all over people because they don't really sit with, well, what do I need and want? And gosh, what do I have to give up or do differently to get that? I think that would be definitely a base trait for people that do orbiting.
Yeah, and there is something very amorphous about that, and that wishy-washiness is something that probably pervades. If you're doing this, it's probably the way you live your life, which means you're probably not being very specific about things you want and getting clear about goals or what you want to have. And I was talking to a friend of mine actually recently. She's actually writing a book on boundaries, and it's such a key thing that people forget, and they think they've got good boundaries, but then something happens and they get totally steamrolled.
Yes.
And so,
what did those other people do to me?
Exactly. Then it becomes the blame game, and it's the unfair victim role. When you have firm boundaries and you start getting clear what those are and how to be that way, you drop the pretense of being a victim, because that's what it is. And you start to become much more healthy in your way of standing on your 2 feet. And you simply say, you know what? I'm done with that. And frankly, it's the healthiest choice you can make to walk away and be free, because not only are you then going to have clear boundaries about choosing something different and getting into a healthy relationship again with somebody else, but secondly, your friends are going to like you again.
The true friends.
Yeah.
Not the other friends that are doing this kind of thing around you or to you. Because it's what we allow. What do we allow in our lives?
Absolutely.
When we are working on setting better boundaries? Because I was the worst at this. I've talked about it. My mid-30s was such a change for me of going, wow, I need to figure out what my opinion is and say it out loud. I need to talk about my needs out loud instead of feeling like I'm never getting them, but I don't ask. And the people who give me stuff I don't want, and I'm all whiny about it. Ugh, it was terrible. I decided I didn't like being around somebody like that. I needed to do something about it.
That's a wise choice. I know for me, frankly, it was a lot. I was definitely in my very young years I was doing that. But I've thankfully had a fairly good universe support, giving me good, clear feedback that got me to step up and step out of those paradigms so I could be healthy now,
Yeah. We eventually do say thank you for the lessons, right?
Indeed, yes.
Even though in the middle we're like, what? Why am I getting this lesson? So cuffing cracks me up because I never really understood the word, and I understand the meaning is that, especially here we are in the heat wave, but in the wintertime, which I know people who have winter 9 months out of the year because of where they live, we want to have that cozy, that connecting, the physical connecting, the belonging. And so we just look for somebody where there's just a body and they're warm and they're there, and we just jump in with both feet without, I mean, here we are talking about boundaries again, without any discretion. And it's so frustrating because this is when people jump in so quickly and they post on Facebook, oh my God, I met this person 2 weeks ago and now, it's forever and ever. And it's one of those, like, we just went through the 4th of July and, the big firework poof, but then it's gone. That's what I feel like happens almost always with this. It's so hot and heavy and so intense, and then it burns out really fast.
Yeah. And I think, it's funny because this list is fairly much current terms, but cuffing has been around for quite a long time.
Yes.
Cuffing comes from the idea of handcuffs. That's where the cuffing word comes from.
Yes.
Which is kind of dramatic, but the idea about where you want to be tied to somebody, but the idea about being like you're locked in with somebody for a period of time, and it used to be like the winter time from, I think it was like Thanksgiving to like Valentine's Day, something like that. It was like the winter months was that time frame when it was happening. So in the summer, we're not talking about it now, but if you're listening, just cast your mind back to that time of year. Did you feel like you had that need or desire to be with somebody just to get through the winter months? I mean, back in the old days, of course, the real old days when there wasn't central heating or double glazing, all those things in winter, you wanted someone to cozy up to by the fire to keep warm. And there was something romantic about that. So I understand that feeling. But the thing about cuffing was it was a timed thing. It wasn't just relationship. It was like, I just want somebody for this period of time and then I'm done with them. So not
and
particularly
part of the burning out happens is because you're joined at the hip. You want to do everything together to the exclusion of your friends. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, we used to tease about how the person went off to the island of whatever the guy's name was. And we were just left in the dust. And you really do. If you get into a committed, monogamous, long-term relationship, yes, your life adjusts and you have less time with your friends and certainly more time with your significant other. And you need to keep your friends. And when it happens in this, is it's because of the winter where people would go indoors and not go out because, there's snow up to the roof. We don't live that way, as you've said. And so giving up your personal activities, your friendships, this is when women have said, I just gave up myself in the relationship. I wasn't myself anymore. I had to find myself again after the relationship. And I don't want to ever do that again. And I like that they say that out loud, but first they don't realize or acknowledge, well, why did that happen? And then what do you do besides never dating again to have that not happen again? Because there's a very healthy joining in a relationship that you want and need, and it's mandatory. And it doesn't demand, I want you to hear that word demand, you give up yourself in the process. And that's what cuffing does. It's very mutually exclusion of everybody else. You both give up so much of your life, and it's so unhealthy. In my personal, never to be humble opinion about relationships.
I'm going to say you're pretty much the same page as I am, of course, because we tend to be on the same page. The thing about this also is, and again, using the olden times feeling of this and the visuals of this, is that back in the olden days before there were smartphones and stuff like that, when it came to the winter months, and as you were saying, people got like stay indoors and didn't go out much, it was kind of like you had to find someone to be with you may not have a chance again once it becomes winter. So there was a certain impatience and desperation even to find someone to, another term used to date, shack up with during the winter months. So there was a method to the madness, but it wasn't healthy. And I agree with you absolutely that really what we do in our work, and what our clients want is a relationship that's not going to last just for 4 months, but it's going to last for life. So the intention behind it is not to just find someone to get cuffed to, but to actually find someone to explore and have a fulfilling relationship with that goes for life, ideally.
It's such a good point. And so one of the things you're doing while you're getting to know each other, while you're dating, is these are the things that are in my life that I won't give up. I'm happy to make room and make time.
Yeah.
And there's things that I will be able to put aside or do less. This is my baseline that keeps me upright and happy. Friends or clubs or exercise or, sport activities or something. To think, I think it would be great if you want to join me in some of them and I want to join you in some of yours. I'm a big proponent of having still some separate things, because then when you come back together, you talk about this thing that maybe the other person would never have gone to, but they like hearing about it. And I know you men really like going, look at, she's really happy talking to me about her thing. I'm going to take a little credit because I'm listening, which I'm so fine with. I love that because you love watching us sparkle. You love watching us smile. So the more you encourage us to talk about stuff that we're passionate about, I love to asking couples about their relationships. I sat next to this fun couple on the plane coming here. They were just a riot. And I had talked to this couple really newly when I was coaching. And I said, so what's one of the really cutest things about her? He goes, when I met her, she collected ceramic pigs. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a ceramic pig. He said she was so excited about it, and she showed me her collection. So everywhere I went, I would look for ceramic pigs and bring them, because every time I brought her one, she was so happy and excited. So here's something kind of quirky and weird that some other kind of man would have gone, what and what? And maybe she would have kept him, or maybe she would have let it go if he didn't, respond positively to it. But here's somebody who went, please do it more, because I love watching you happy and excited about it. So however you can do that for yourself and the other person, what's something that they really like? What's something that floats their boat that I could think about when I'm out in the world to do for them, that keeps you connected and coming back together? Which is what doesn't happen. You think it's happening during that cuffing thing. You think it's the best thing ever, but then like the firework, poof, months later, it is gone. Especially, I'm amazed at the people who I've figured out how to use this term with them. They went, we really discovered we didn't have much in common, which is so interesting.
Oh yeah.
It's all about being together, but not joining, really, not joining your lives.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, this goes beyond cuffing, of course, because there's so many times people get in a relationship because of chemistry, because of lust, because of looks, because of situational environment. And it is one of those things where you don't, at the beginning, choose to check values, check alignment, verify if you do match with the things in common. And it's interesting, like on the dating apps, because nowadays you put certain things in there automatically. And I'm very clear, being a single person on dating apps, if the person in the profile says vegan, I'm not going to follow up. It doesn't matter how cute they are, because it's not a common value for me. Sorry, everyone who's listening. I do eat. As a friend of mine calls it, I'm a flexitarian. I eat different things and I'm flexible.
I love that term.
Yeah, a friend of mine gave me that one. But the thing is, it's like having common values and common things you love is key. And so you said about that one with ceramic pigs. Not something that he's going to do anything about, but he probably enjoys her having it and enjoys her because she has that.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things. So you don't necessarily have to have everything exactly the same matching, but you do, I'm saying need to, but you do want to have an inclusivity of what your partner's things they have are within the realm of your enjoyment, versus like so alien you'd never want to touch them with a 10-foot pole, so to speak.
Yeah. I've dated vegetarians. I think I would have a challenge with vegan too, because I like eating meat and I know it would bother them. So that just seems like a reasonable thing to say, I'm not sure that we're a match.
Right.
Yeah, that's a flexitarian. I am so that. I like everything.
Was the vegetarian thing I did have a girlfriend I lived with at the time with that. And that was definitely, I don't know if it was true or not, or if I was holding it inside. Is that I was really worried about making sure I cleaned everything up perfectly, because I didn't want to worry about, have anything on the utensils, on the plates, or the cookware that might have some meat stuff on it that might upset her because she's vegetarian.
Yeah.
The relationship ended for other reasons, but that one sure was part of the reason we didn't work out. So common values is key to get back to the point.
When you have your absolutely have to have and absolutely can't have, whatever those top 3, 7, 10, whatever they are, you really need to honor them. It's really for both sides, and say, gosh, I really like you. You're a great person. And I just don't think we can work because of this, because this is a deal maker or breaker for both of us, to have somebody that's in a similar mindset.
Yeah, that's very true.
Really.
The next one.
I never heard of pocketing before, and it makes so much sense. So the definition is that you've put somebody in your pocket, and you would think that sounds cozy and lovely and wonderful, but we're going to tell you the other side of it when we come back from our break, because it's not so positive at all.
It's perfect timing.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory, and you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Hi, we're back talking about the terms and words in dating nowadays. Oh, there's so many. And this is our continuing, part 2. We did part 1 last week of the first 5, and we're covering 6 through 10 today.
And by the way, there's more than 10, I'm sure. We're just covering the 10 we just found.
Yes, felt like enough already, because I hadn't heard of about half of them for sure. So the next one is pocketing. So it sounds kind of cozy. They kind of tuck you away and they take care of you. And no.
So not, yeah.
This is when you're a secret.
What's interesting, because well, first one, well, no, you can explain first, and I'll give a counterpoint to it.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so what it is it's they or you don't tell anybody about them for a really long time. Now, I think it's perfectly logical, and I advise it to not tell anybody in the beginning. Just let it blossom and bloom and see how you're doing. I mean, you might have a bestie, you tell them, but please don't put it on Facebook. Yeah. So we'll have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
And you talk about, as you're getting to know each other, especially if you have little kids, that you don't want to tell them right away. And if you're widowed, when do you tell the parents of the spouse that passed? But, I've had people call me to start coaching of, it's been 6 months and I haven't met any of their friends, or they're not available to go meet my friends, and they're not open to doing things as much in public. They like having cozy dinners at home or going to the movies at night. I don't think there's anything special about that. I think that that's a big red flag. I think it's a big alarm bell that you need to ask, what's going on? What the heck is going on? Why are we not meeting each other's friends after 2 or 3 months? I mean, this is when you've said, I want to concentrate on this person. I want to move forward in the relationship. And I want to see how they interact with my friends. I want to see how they interact with their friends. I want to see how I feel around their friends. And if it's going on for a long time and they're not doing it, I think that should be huge alarm bells, no matter what reason they give for it.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Mr. Selby?
Well, you covered it in great detail. A couple of things I want to add to that, because it definitely made the point clear, is the idea of pocketing being a negative term, because it is initially sounds cozy, like you were saying, but the negative process about keeping it distinctly separate and exclusive from everything you know. Now, sometimes I know it's been a case where maybe you're ashamed to let your new date know about your existing friendships because maybe you don't value your friendships enough. There's one part of it. But the second part is maybe you're afraid that if you introduce your new partner to your friends, you might lose one or the other. And I know the situations, and I went through this when I was younger, where if I was going out with somebody, I didn't want to let her meet my guy friends in case they try to to hit on her. That
oh my gosh.
Protection, as a younger man, definitely was younger. So there may be that going on. So pocketing wasn't necessary, because pocketing in the definition is a much more defined term that isn't necessarily good in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about maybe positive spins on it we can use for this reason. And on the other extremes, I want to just go full circle on this. There are definitely, I talked about this before. We talked about this, I think, in our podcast. I know I've talked about it before in my own work, that when you date somebody and you're so exclusive, you drop all your friends completely to be in a relationship. So that's not pocketing, it's something else. But it's the same idea, basically, where you don't have anything to do with your friends and your relationship at the same time. And
I think that's the cargo pant pocket, the really deep one.
There you go. See, we just invented a new term. Nicely done. But that is the one that some people do, where they get so into the relationship, they're so enamored, they're so all in, that they drop everything around them, including the social life. So that's not this one, but it's that would be the extreme level. But this idea of not letting people know, and I want to go back to something you said earlier about this, is when you put social media, Facebook, when you go and been out with somebody with 2 or 3 times, don't put it on Facebook. I mean, if you want to put it like somebody else posted this. I saw this comment recently about putting like a picture of like a couple of wine glasses on in your profile or something like that, or a rose or something. You can drop the hint that you're maybe dating somebody. That's fine. But to put up there, you're now in a relationship with so and so and you've been out twice, not cool either. So social media, that should be another topic we talk about, is like when social media is appropriate to post things there in your relationship's journey. But anyway, back to this point, pocketing. Some offshoots of this.
Oh my goodness.
Pocketing it is as I said earlier, it does imply almost like there's a sense of shame somewhere in there, or a sense of not valuing somewhere, where it's like you don't trust, you don't accept, you don't allow your social life and your romantic life to mingle. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that if you really are looking to have a healthy relationship, ideally your social life and your life around you is also something you value. Because if you don't, there's a whole other issue to work on. But if you do, then you ideally want to be something where it's okay to have both of them interact. Yes, as you were saying, not to do it in the first few times you go out with somebody to introduce all your friends, because one thing is overwhelming. I know when I was going out with somebody, if she was going to take me all her friends, I'm like, well, I don't remember half the people you know's names by what you told me, let alone meet them in person. Please don't do that to me. Build the strength of the relationship between the two of you that can handle the weight of other people joining the conversation. That's probably the way of putting it.
Yes. And I think people who tend to do this are either, and could be, and insecure and or controlling. Mm-hmm. Because it's very smothering. And so one of the things I thought of that I hadn't thought of when I read this until you were talking, because I know people who they don't want to tell their friends because they think their friends might tell them the truth, and they don't want to the truth.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't in the definition at all, but what you said, I thought I have to say this out loud.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I don't want everybody's opinion. One of the things I've started saying, especially when I became widowed and people who had no idea that thought they got an opinion, I said, I don't think I sent them a ballot to vote. They really don't get a vote about what I'm doing or not doing or saying, no. There's a really close sector of people that get to do that. And so, yes, you pick and choose, you're close, best people who have your best interest at heart can look at this in the most objective manner. They can't all be objective because they still are bringing their own personal experience, and you still have to decide for yourself after they've given their opinion. But if you don't want to tell anybody, then I think that's something to think about if it's now been past the boundary of 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, that's oh, wait.
I'm out of my element in my sink. I forgot to turn the ringer off on my phone.
That happens. No, but the thing I want to underscore that point definitely is that sense of when you go out with somebody and you're afraid to show introduce that partner to your friends because what they might say to you behind her back or their back, so to speak, but they might tell you the truth. Maybe that's letting you know that you may not have chosen the best for yourself. So it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's also a good lesson to know. It's like, if you don't want to show your friends this new person, what is it you're afraid to hear? Maybe you're choosing less than you really want to believe you deserve. I don't know. Just an idea. But that was
I think it's a very important point to address that they did not in the definition, but you and I like elaborating when it's helpful for the people that are listening. Yes. Okay.
So the last one, breadcrumbing. Yes, this one's an interesting one. Breadcrumbing, I mean, the idea of breadcrumbing, and it's funny because I go two ways to this because I'm used to breadcrumbs being put on top of like meals and things. So it's not what I'm talking about here. Breadcrumbing is more like the trail of breadcrumbs, like Hansel and Gretel, like the fairy tale thing. We're basically leading people on, because that's what it really is. It's the leading people on part of it that really is the insidiousness of the behavior. Because what's really going on, because it even happens with exes, where there'll be hints dropped, or it'll be, and it happens, I'm sure it happens on social media as well, where it's like the likes and the comments on the posts are like dropping little hints and going like, psst, it's me, like, shh, like it's like over here sort of things, all these little subtle like indications, but it's not something real. It just it's a bad flirt. What am I putting it? You know.
And I think one of the telltale things is if you could stay centered and grounded and not get all chemical and hormonal about the person too soon. This is really where you look at what do they say and what do they do? Do their words match their actions? And not even just their immediate action, but their ongoing action. Do they say this and do they ongoing do this? Oh my gosh, because they leave a little hint and then they back off and they say, well, maybe we'll do this. And then that doesn't happen. And I'm not saying occasionally, I'm saying when I've seen this, it is blatant. It is insidious. It is completely like the teasing of the fish, of the bait of the fish. And I think will damage people's self-esteem and their self-confidence, because some of the people are so good at this that you're like, what did they say and what really happened? So that's really when it's helpful to have, a best friend or a coach who's like, let's just puzzle this out and really look at what's the reality. What's the reality of their words and what's the reality of their actions? Because this is one of the words I'd heard before and have seen it in play so much. And it's sad. It makes me sad.
Well, the thing that makes it really heinous, for want of the word, is the basic. It's a form of manipulation. It's not courtship. It's not romantic. It's not even building anticipation. It's pure manipulation. And the person doing it is probably getting a lot of the ego strokes out of being able to manipulate somebody else. If it's an ex coming back, especially, is that satisfaction they might be deriving from you not knowing what the hell's going on. And that isn't healthy for you.
No. Keeping you off balance. This is really the one that keeps you guessing and wondering and second guessing yourself. At first you start second guessing them, but often these kind of people will help you turn it in on yourself and think, did I not think that? Do I really not want that? It's insidious. It's, what's the word you use that I went, I love that word.
Manipulation.
Yes, it is very much a manipulation. It is. And even if people are doing it unconsciously because they're so insecure, I have found for the person doing it, they know what they're doing. They really do.
Yeah.
Because they can't make the commitment. They really don't want to let you go, and they don't want somebody else to have you. And it's got so many underlying mucky, horrible things.
Well, let's just call it what it is, because what breadcrumbing really is the lighter version of gaslighting.
Yes.
And we talked about gaslighting before in a previous episode way back. You can go search for it in our archives if you want to watch it again. But gaslighting, in a very brief synopsis, was actually derived from a movie back in 1947, I think it was. Yeah. But the idea being is that the guy was manipulating and confusing, for want of a better word, his prospects and also her mother, and trying to drive them insane so he could get the money from the will and everything else. That's the very, very Cliff Notes version. But the key thing about it was manipulative. It was presenting a false idea and a false possibility that the other person kept falling for. And breadcrumbing has that same tendency. It's just a little bit lighter, if there's such a thing as lighter than that. But it's still not healthy, because it's not focusing towards a healthy relationship, towards love, or towards any of that. It's purely about control from the other person, and it's not healthy.
No. And it's crazy making for the person on the receiving end, which is what's so helpful about that movie, because you really do watch her feel like she's going crazy and losing her mind. And yeah, I do like, this is the lighter brown of the breadcrumbs, I suppose. They're not quite as toasted. But when I think about breadcrumbing is that, when you think of Hansel and Gretel and, you leave the breadcrumbs and then they can't find their path because the animals ate it. That's what this is. There's no substance left behind. There's nothing that you can now track back and go, how did I get here? What happened? I mean, that's the thing that you and I are so good at, is going, well, let's say how we got here. What steps happened that we could now make some new choices? Well, if you don't even know how the heck you got here, you can't make new choices. And that's really what happens with breadcrumbing, for sure.
Exactly. So if you're stuck with breadcrumbing, talk to us.
Say it again. Sorry, I talked over you.
Well, say it's like, well, if you're dealing with breadcrumbing issues, let's talk to one of us, which is where we're going to get to. So go ahead.
Perfect. And we made it through all 10.
We did. Hey, maybe there were more showing up. We'll see.
Well, I think that could certainly be a future episode. So yeah, it's very sad. Boy, if you're dealing with any of these challenges that you like, oh, I didn't even know that's what it was. And yeah, I really would like to talk to somebody about that. And I really would like my dating life to feel better than any of these words feel. Because you, like some of them, you're like, oh, I thought that was a good thing. Oh, it turns out because of my reaction, it's not a good thing. It's not healthy for me. It's not working for me. It's not bringing me closer to a healthy, happy, committed relationship. You can talk to us.
Indeed.
So the way to get it, I love when you say that. The way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. You can sign up for my newsletter through there, and you can also sign up to have a complimentary conversation with me. You just click on what's holding you back from love, and that gives you access to my calendar, and you can schedule a time at your convenience for us to talk. And you can also send me a personal email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And then you can reach me on social media. So on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest, it's Christine Baumgartner, or The Perfect Catch. And then on Instagram, I'm Coach Christine Baumgartner. And on YouTube, I'm at Coach Christine Baumgartner. And it's all in the link, and it's all in my emails. So you actually don't have to remember them, but thank you for listening. And now on to Barry, who's much more simple.
Well, you covered them all, which is great. you covered all of them, which is great. So it was same easy to writing them.
I've been practicing.
You've been practicing for sure. So if you want to reach me, you can definitely go to my website, which is barryselby.com. And on the homepage of there, you can join my email list, which is on the bottom of the screen. Or if you want to test drive my coaching, there's a chance to do a mini session with me. We get on my calendar and schedule a time to talk, and we have a little mini session to work out where you are and where you want to go. There are other things on my site that right now are hidden, but basically if you join my email newsletter, there is a list at the bottom of my newsletters each week that has all of my resources. You can find everything I do, including my books, online courses. Sorry, my book. Shouldn't say books yet. There's something else brewing. Keep it a secret. Also, other videos and stuff. I've got some video series. My YouTube channel is full of videos. So all my social media, including YouTube, is Barry Selby. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Clubhouse, which I'm very early on nowadays, is all Barry Selby. The Instagram, that's what I'm trying to say. Instagram is the only one that's different, which is the real Barry Selby. But otherwise, you can follow me. And on YouTube, I do have, besides all these videos, because there's all these videos in a playlist, I've got about 1,500 other videos up there too. So you could learn lots about yourself and relationships without paying a penny. Just subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Binge Barry.
Indeed, they can.
And every week we're here at 1 o'clock Pacific time and 4 o'clock Eastern time and all the times in between. So you can watch us live. And then you also can watch the replays afterwards through our links. And we love it when you share comments when we're talking or comments on the replays. And please share it with your friends who are having challenges with their dating and relationship lives. And you can also take us everywhere with you because we're now on Apple.
And Spotify.
Listen to us everywhere. And Spotify everywhere. We're everywhere, Barry.
That's kind of scary to say that, actually. But yeah.
Let's talk dating anywhere all the time.
Good promo.
Yeah. So we'll see you again next week. I'll still be in Poseville, Washington, in my brother's office.
Okay. And we'll see you
They
both.
might let me out to eat, right?
Yeah, I hope they do. Yeah, that'll be one thing at least. It's like family. Come on, they should be kind to you.
And he's a good cook, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that's why you're staying there. Got it. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.